In the Galactic Academy of Zithera, the words, "human exchange student," were whispered with the same reverence and caution usually reserved for black holes and antimatter leaks. Even before the ship from Sol System docked, every species on campus had already seen the viral footage: humans running toward explosions, domesticating apex predators, and wrestling each other for fun. Rumor had it that their species came from what the Galactic Database categorized as a Class 12 death world, meaning everything on their planet tried to kill them, including the weather. So when the classroom door hissed open and a small, freckled, 12-year-old human walked in wearing a wrinkled academy uniform and a lopsided smile, silence fell over the alien students like a gravity net. The human's name tag read Liam Carter, and despite the hundreds of eyes, lenses, and sensor stalks trained on him, he just waved and said, "Hey. So, which seat's mine?" To the assembled students of the Interstellar Juvenile Cultural Exchange Program, it felt as though someone had released a live grenade in the room and asked where to sit it down. Among the alien children, one in particular couldn't stop staring: Rilka, a young Vrathian with sapphire scales and a mouth full of small, retractable talons. His species descended from hunters that once ruled the acid jungles of Vrath Prime. They respected one thing above all: claws. Rilka's parents were scientists, not predators, but instinct was instinct. When he saw Liam's bare, smooth hands, no talons, no fangs, not even protective scales, his dorsal fins fluttered with confusion. The human looked fragile, soft, like prey pretending to walk upright. The class instructor, a calm, luminescent being named Professor Orion, floated to the center of the amphitheater. Their translucent bodies shimmered with pale blues as they spoke through the Academy's universal translator. "Today," Orion announced, "we begin our lesson on evolutionary survival strategies. As part of our curriculum, each student will share a feature their species relies on to endure in hostile environments." The professor's body rippled faintly toward Liam. "And given our newest student's arrival, I believe this discussion will be enlightening." A nervous buzz filled the room. Rilka's clawed hand shot up first. "Professor, if it pleases the class, my species developed retractable combat talons. We can climb sheer surfaces, rend meat, and defend ourselves against predators twice our mass. Observe." With a flick, 3 crystalline claws extended from his fingers with a satisfying SHNK. Several classmates clapped, at least those who had hands. Then Rilka turned toward Liam, curiosity blazing in his amber eyes. "Human," he said, "you have no claws. No armor. Not even venom. How do your kind survive?" Liam blinked, as though genuinely puzzled by the question. He looked at his own hands, flexed his fingers, and shrugged. "Guess we just got good at other stuff." The class erupted into overlapping clicks, hums, and ultrasonic laughter. 1 trillion students' cilia quivered with disbelief. "Other stuff?" Professor Orion glowed a calming teal. "Let's allow our human friend to elaborate. Liam, please share a key evolutionary trait that aids human survival." The boy thought for a moment. Then he grinned. "Well, we make things." A pause. Rilka tilted his head. "You make things? Like tools?" "Yeah. Tools, machines, weapons, shelters, even clothes." Liam chuckled. "If we don't have claws, we just build some." That got another round of laughter, though this time tinged with discomfort. Orion pulsed silver, intrigued. "Weapons?" "Sure. Sticks, stones, metal projectiles, lasers, nukes." Liam started counting on his fingers. "Honestly, if it exists, we've probably used it to fight something." The laughter stopped. Several of the students leaned back instinctively, bioluminescent patterns dimming. Rilka's claws retracted with a soft click. Orion's light flickered uncertainly. "And what motivated your species to such extremes?" Liam shrugged again, his expression open and casual, like he was talking about favorite sports. "Everything on Earth wants to eat us. Big cats, snakes, viruses, weather, even plants sometimes. If we didn't figure stuff out fast, we'd be extinct." The class sat frozen in silence. Even the ventilation hum seemed to pause. Rilka finally spoke, voice quiet. You fought your planet? Still do, Liam said cheerfully. But we kind of like it that way. Makes things interesting. The professor slowly floated forward. Fascinating. A species that compensates for physical weakness with creativity and aggression. You've adapted not by changing your body, but your environment. Liam nodded. That's one way to put it. We build. We adapt. And if something tries to kill us, he mimed swinging an invisible club. We make sure it regrets trying. A few nervous laughs trickled around the room, though Rilka didn't join. His scales prickled uneasily. The human's tone was too casual, too comfortable with the idea of violence. The rest of the lesson passed in an odd haze. Students presented their evolutionary defenses: acidic blood, camouflage, regenerative tissue, while Liam listened with polite interest. Every so often, he'd ask weirdly specific questions like, "So how fast does your venom work?" Or, "Would your hide stop kinetic impact?" When the class ended, Rilka's curiosity gnawed at him like hunger. He followed Liam out into the academy courtyard, where glowing flora swayed in the thin alien breeze. "Human," Rilka called out. Liam turned, squinting against the bioluminescent light. "Yeah? You said you build your own claws. What did you mean by that?" Liam's grin widened. He rummaged through his backpack and pulled out a small, silvery object that unfolded with a soft whir. It extended into a sleek, curved gauntlet that covered his hand. A row of energy filaments shimmered along the knuckles, razor-thin and humming faintly. Rilka's jaw dropped. "Is that a weapon?" "Kind of," Liam said, slipping it onto his hand. "Prototype from my uncle's workshop. Uses plasma edge technology. Cuts through most metals. Wanna see?" Before Rilka could answer, Liam reached down and tapped one of the stone benches. With a hiss, the plasma filaments flared bright blue, and a clean, molten groove appeared in the rock. Rilka stumbled backward, dorsal fins flaring in alarm. "You carry claws in your backpack?" Liam looked up, puzzled. "You don't?" That moment, simple, naive, and terrifying, spread across the academy faster than a tachyon broadcast. By the next morning, the story had gone system-wide. Human child brings personal weapons to class. Administrators panicked. Security drones doubled their patrols. The Galactic News Network ran panic segments debating whether humans were safe to integrate into mixed-species education. But to Liam, it was all overblown. He didn't want to scare anyone. He just answered a question honestly. Still, the looks he got in the cafeteria stung a little. Alien kids shuffled away from his table, whispering about the Deathworlder. Rilka sat nearby, staring at the human over a tray of steaming nutrient gel, torn between fear and fascination. Finally, he pushed his food aside and asked, "Do all humans have weapons like that?" Liam looked up from his sandwich. "Nah. Most don't. But we've all got the idea of it. Even when we're not fighting, we're inventing. Tools, art, stories, same thing, really. We just like building stuff that changes things." Rilka hesitated. "And if someone threatened you?" Liam smiled faintly. "Then we build faster." Outside the observation dome, a meteor shower streaked across the alien sky, silver trails carving lines through the darkness. The academy lights flickered briefly as the shielding field compensated. Neither boy noticed. Rilka stared at the human's hands again, small, pink, soft, and understood suddenly why the galaxy feared them. Because they weren't weak. They were unfinished. And they'd decided to finish themselves with tools sharper than claws could ever be. Liam took another bite of his sandwich, utterly oblivious to the existential dread he'd just inspired in a dozen alien minds. "So," he said through a mouthful of bread, "what's for homework?" By the next rotation, the Galactic Academy of Zithra buzzed like a disturbed hornet's nest. Every hallway screen displayed the same headline in pulsing red script. "Human child deploys weapon in class, safety review underway." Security drones zipped through corridors, scanning for unauthorized plasma edge devices. Alien students whispered in clusters, glancing nervously whenever Liam walked past. His classmates from Section A avoided eye contact altogether. Even the friendly Glimmerians, who usually tried to be nice to everyone, dimmed their glow when he approached. Liam Carter didn't mean to start an interstellar panic. But the more the grown-ups overreacted, the worse it got. His teachers held special advisory sessions about non-lethal conflict resolution. His personal translator implant got updated to include new warning phrases like, "This is not an act of aggression." And when he went to lunch, a bubble shield quietly activated between him and the food dispensers. Rilka watched all this unfold with a mix of guilt and awe. He hadn't meant to expose the human. He just asked an innocent question. But now, even he couldn't deny the strange pull of curiosity Liam inspired. The human didn't growl, hiss, or puff up like most predators. He just smiled. Calm. Carefree. And somehow, that was worse. When their evolutionary survival studies class reconvened, Professor Orion projected a hologram of an ancient Earth creature, the saber-toothed tiger. "Observe," Orion began, voice steady despite the uneasy atmosphere. "This predator is now extinct. It once relied on massive fangs to dominate its prey. A magnificent design, yet ultimately flawed. When its environment changed, its specialization became its downfall." The professor's shimmering form turned toward Liam, who sat stiffly in the back. "Mr. Carter, your species evolved on a planet that eliminated many of its predators. How did humanity avoid the same fate?" Liam hesitated. Every pair of eyes, lenses, and sensors in the room was locked on him. We were the environment, eventually." Silence again. Rilka's dorsal fins flattened. "What does that mean?" "It means," Liam said slowly, "we stopped waiting for nature to change us. We changed it instead." A quiet, sharp intake of air came from one of the insected students. Professor Orion pulsed a shade of deep violet, curiosity mixed with unease. "And what of the creatures you displaced, young human?" Orion asked softly. Liam looked down at his desk. "Most of them didn't make it." A cold shiver ran through the class. The alien children, descendants of apex species, couldn't fathom reshaping an entire world just to survive. For them, survival meant balance. For humanity, it sounded like dominion. Later that cycle, Rilka found Liam sitting alone near the Academy's gravity pool, skipping tiny mineral disks across the rippling blue surface. Each disk left trails of light as it bounced, defying the water's magnetic field. "They think you're dangerous," Rilka said quietly. Liam didn't look up. "Kinda used to that. Even your own people? Especially them." Rilka's scales glimmered faintly in the low light. "You said humans build claws. But what happens when you don't need them anymore?" Liam finally turned to look at him. His brown eyes reflected the faint shimmer of the gravity pool. "We build new ones. Smarter ones. Faster. Smaller. We don't really stop." The alien boy tilted his head. "Why?" "Because the universe doesn't stop trying to kill us," Liam said simply. The words lingered like static. Before Rilka could answer, a sudden klaxon blared across the courtyard. Red holographic warnings appeared midair. "Security alert! Unauthorized energy signature detected in Sector 7. Students scrambled in all directions. Rilka's fins flared in alarm. "Sector 7, that's the research bay." Liam's expression changed instantly. "That's where they took my gauntlet." "Your weapon?" "Tool," Liam corrected automatically, already sprinting toward the corridor. "They weren't supposed to power it up. It's unstable if you don't calibrate the feedback coils." Rilka chased after him, claws clicking against the polished floor. The Academy's emergency shutters sealed behind them as they ran through the echoing halls, dodging panicked students and flashing red lights. When they reached Sector 7, the door was sealed. Through the observation window, they saw a terrifying sight. The confiscated gauntlet, Liam's prototype, hovered in a containment field. But the plasma filaments were glowing white-hot, arcs of unstable energy licking at the magnetic barrier. Technicians shouted, their translator devices stuttering as they tried to stabilize the core. One shouted in panic, "It's rewriting its containment algorithm!" Liam slammed his hand on the access panel. "They must have hooked it to the Academy's power grid. It's feeding on it." Roka grabbed his arm. "You can't go in there. The radiation levels. If that plasma breaches containment, this whole deck goes nova." Liam snapped. "I can fix it. I built it." Before Roka could argue, the human overrode the lock with his personal ID and bolted inside. The air shimmered with heat and electromagnetic distortion. Sparks danced through the lab. The gauntlet pulsed like a living heart, humming with dangerous energy. Liam ducked under a spray of sparks and ripped a panel open, fingers flying across exposed circuits. Behind the glass, Roka watched in horror as the human worked without hesitation, sweat beading on his brow. "You'll fry yourself alive!" he shouted through the calm. Liam grinned, wild and fearless. "Welcome to Earth 101, buddy, adapt or burn!" A surge of energy roared through the chamber. The lights flickered, then dimmed to emergency red. The containment field stabilized, barely. Liam ripped out the gauntlet's power coupler, tossed it aside, and collapsed against the wall, panting. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of cooling systems. Then, with a dull clang, the gauntlet fell to the floor, harmless once more. Roka burst in as soon as the door unlocked, grabbing Liam by the arm. "You're insane!" Liam smirked weakly. "Yeah, but it worked." Professor Orion arrived moments later, accompanied by security drones and a flurry of administrators. Their voice rippled with alarm and disbelief. "Mr. Carter! You endangered the entire facility!" "I saved it," Liam countered. "Your team didn't understand the feedback resonance. I told them not to plug it in." The drones aimed scanners at him, assessing radiation exposure. His biometrics spiked but stabilized. Orion's body dimmed to a deep, conflicted purple. "You act with courage and recklessness in equal measure." Roka stepped forward before he could stop himself. "He warned them. They didn't listen." The professor regarded them both in silence, lights pulsing faintly. "It seems the human instinct to protect is as dangerous as its instinct to fight." By the time the alarms faded, word had already spread again. The human child had saved the Academy. But the narrative was already splitting down the middle. Some saw him as a hero. Others whispered he'd caused the danger to begin with. Back in their dorm, Liam sat cross-legged on his bunk, tinkering with the damaged gauntlet. Roka sat across from him, still trembling slightly from adrenaline. "You really could have died," the alien said quietly. "Yeah," Liam said without looking up. "Would have been a bad grade, huh?" Roka's fins twitched in disbelief. "You laugh at death?" Liam glanced up. His grin softened into something sadder, older than a child's face should carry. "You have to. If you don't, it wins." Roka didn't know how to respond. His people had evolved claws to survive. Humans, apparently, had evolved nerve. When Liam finally fell asleep, Roka studied the half-repaired gauntlet lying on the desk, shiny, elegant, deadly. And in that moment, the young Vrathian understood something his ancestors never had. The most terrifying predator in the galaxy didn't need claws, armor, or venom. It needed only imagination. And humans, terrifyingly, never ran out of that. The corridors of the Galactic Academy of Zithara erupted in chaos. Hollow windows slammed shut, containment fields flared blue, and students of every imaginable shape and biology sprinted in panic toward reinforced safe zones. Professors shouted through translators, trying to herd terrified younglings as the world above began to burn. Roka gripped a railing, claws digging into the alloy as the lights flickered red. "What's happening?" A security drone zipped past, static crackling from its speakers. "Pirate fleet, non-aligned mercenaries. Demanding access to research archives. Shields failing." The words barely registered before Liam sprinted past, hair messy, eyes blazing with something between fear and focus. "Liam!" Roka shouted, chasing after him. "Where are you going?" "The labs," Liam yelled over the blaring alarms. If the shields drop, they'll hit the reactor first. That's where they'll try to breach. Rilka's fins flared. That's suicide. Liam didn't stop running. Welcome to my elective, Human Decision-Making 101. They reached the laboratory atrium just as an explosion rippled through the outer hull. The impact shook the entire academy, sending debris raining from the ceiling. Emergency force fields shimmered to life, sealing the breach, but the air stank of ozone and burning circuitry. Professor Orion floated into view, their once luminous body now dim and pulsing erratically. Students, to safety shelters, now! Liam skidded to a halt beside them. Professor, the pirates are after the database, right? The one with all species survival blueprints? Orion hesitated. Yes, but how did you? They'll hit the main data core through the power conduits. They'll bypass security and fry your energy grid to force the failsafe unlock. How do you know that? Liam glanced at him, expression grim. Because that's what we do. Another explosion rocked the hallway. The air shimmered as a hole tore open at the far end, and figures stepped through. Tall, angular silhouettes, clad in exo-armor painted in crude, glowing symbols. Their weapons pulsed with red energy. The Kryn Marauders, mercenaries from the Outer Spiral, famous for raiding undefended research colonies. They advanced with cold precision. One scanned the room and spotted the students. Targets located. Acquire the data. Eliminate interference. Orion flared bright violet. You will not harm these children! The lead marauder raised his weapon, and Liam moved first. He snatched his half-repaired gauntlet from his belt, jammed the power coil into its housing, and slammed it onto his arm. The device sparked violently but stabilized with a low, dangerous hum. The plasma filaments ignited pale blue, hissing like living lightning. The pirates hesitated. That's a child, one muttered. Not just any child, Rilka said, eyes wide. A human. Liam raised the gauntlet. Yeah. Now you're getting it. He leapt forward, not with grace, but with raw, terrifying audacity. The plasma arc sliced through the pirate's weapon, molten metal spraying the floor. The alien screamed as his armor seared. Rilka ducked behind a console, heart pounding. The air crackled with ozone as Liam deflected a bolt of red energy, the plasma field flaring white. Liam! Rilka shouted. There are too many! I don't do math in fights! Liam yelled back, diving behind cover as another blast scorched the wall. Can you hack the power relays? Rilka blinked. Hack what? You're good with claws, right? Use them! For half a second, the Vrathian stared. Then instinct took over. He scrambled to a nearby control panel, slashing through its casing. Sparks flew as he jammed his claws into the circuitry, rerouting the defense grid. His dorsal fins glowed faintly as the system's feedback linked with his neural interface. I can overload the secondary capacitors, he shouted. But it'll short the entire wing. Perfect, Liam yelled. Do it! The pirates regrouped, weapons crackling. Kill them both! Before they could fire, the lights dimmed, and the floor thrummed with a rising, electric pulse. Rilka's claws sparked as the entire lab came alive. Holographic projectors flared, force field arcs snapped open, and robotic maintenance arms whirred to life. Liam grinned. Now that's teamwork! The pirates fired, but the field shimmered, redirecting the blasts. Liam charged through the distortion, plasma filaments slicing in wide arcs. The human fought like chaos given shape, not elegant, not calculated, but unpredictable, creative, furious. Every time the marauders adapted, he changed rhythm, throwing a console, using debris for cover, even ricocheting an energy bolt off a reflective panel into an enemy's face. Rilka watched in stunned awe. No claws. No armor. Just a brain that refused to stop thinking. The last pirate lunged, pinning Liam to the wall. Stupid little ape! The alien snarled, tightening his grip. You think you can fight trained soldiers? Liam coughed, smirking despite the pressure on his throat. Not for long. Just long enough. The hum beneath their feet peaked. Rilka screamed, Now! He slashed the last connection, and the entire wing detonated in a surge of white energy. The shockwave blew the pirates backward, their armor locking up from overload. Force fields reactivated automatically, sealing the lab again. Smoke filled the air. When it cleared, Liam was still standing, gauntlet melted, uniform scorched, grin somehow still there. Professor Orion floated forward, their voice trembling. You risked your life again, Mr. Carter. You should be terrified. I am, Liam said honestly. But fear's just a tool too. Orion pulsed a soft blue, their version of a sigh. Your species, you treat fear like fuel. Pretty much, Liam said, brushing soot from his sleeve. We burn it till it runs out, then build more. Emergency lights flickered as the Academy's AI announced. Hostile forces repelled. Casualties minimal. The surviving pirates, now restrained, were dragged away by drones. One of them glared at Liam as he was hauled past. You're just a child. What are you? Liam looked at him, expression unreadable. A human. The pirate spat. That's supposed to mean something? Rilka stepped forward before Liam could answer. Yes, he said quietly. It means you should be very afraid. The alien was pulled away, cursing in his own tongue. After the smoke settled, the Academy's council demanded a formal report. There would be inquiries, investigations, politics. But among the students, a new rumor spread faster than light. The human child fought pirates barehanded and won. That night, Rilka couldn't sleep. He stood by the dorm window, watching the defense grid shimmer back to full power around the planet. Liam was asleep on his bunk, one arm bandaged, snoring softly. Rilka whispered to the dark. We evolved claws to survive. But humans, they evolved madness. He looked down at his own hands, then at the humans, scarred, soft, dangerous. Maybe that was humanity's real weapon, he thought. Not claws. Not plasma. But that refusal to give up, that terrifying instinct to fight even when the odds made no sense. The galaxy had classified Earth as a death world. Maybe it wasn't because of its dangers. Maybe it was because of its people. And as the first light of a new rotation glimmered across the alien sky, Rilka realized he was proud, no, honored, to call one of them his friend. The Galactic Academy of Zithra hadn't seen peace like this in decades, though peace might have been the wrong word for it. Uneasy quiet fit better. The halls were repaired, the shields reinforced, the scorch marks scrubbed away. But every species that called the Academy home now walked with a new kind of awareness. Because everyone remembered what had happened. One human child. One homemade weapon. One pirate fleet, defeated. The story spread faster than any official statement ever could. Within days, it crossed systems, then sectors. By the end of the week, it had reached the Galactic Senate's floor, and by the next, it was whispered in hushed awe across 12 star clusters. They say the human boy fought off a boarding party. With his bare hands. No, he built a sun in his palm. He smiled while he did it. Every version grew taller, wilder, more impossible. But none were too far from truth. Now, Liam Carter couldn't even walk across the cafeteria without a dozen alien students clearing the way like he was radioactive. Even the larger species, those with fangs longer than his fingers, nodded politely and gave him space. And the teachers? They spoke to him the way engineers speak to unstable reactors, carefully. Rilka found it all amusing. You realize, he said one morning, sitting across from Liam at breakfast, you're probably the only student here who could start a galactic war just by sneezing. Liam grinned, mouth full of alien fruit. Cool. Does that mean I can skip gym class? Rilka snorted, nearly choking on his nutrient gel. You're impossible. Earth tradition, Liam said cheerfully. We call it chaotic neutral. But beneath the laughter, both of them knew things had changed. When the Galactic Council delegation arrived to assess the incident, they brought with them layers of bureaucracy thick enough to drown in investigators, analysts, xenopsychologists, even a few armed escorts. Their report on the human incident became mandatory reading for every planetary governor. The opening line said it all. Humanity's primary survival adaptation appears to be refusal to die politely. The council requested an audience with the two juvenile participants. Liam sat across from 12 representatives of 12 species, each more nervous than the last. The lead counselor, a crystalline being from Arcturus Prime, folded its fractal arms and began the hearing. Human, it said in a voice like chimes. Your conduct was commendable, but reckless. You endangered fellow students. Liam shrugged. Better than letting pirates roast us. The counselor's refracted eyes glittered. You could have waited for security reinforcements. There weren't going to be any, Liam said simply. They'd already breached the relay hubs. You can't negotiate with people who want to delete your genome from the archives. The chamber fell silent. Even the air systems seemed to hesitate. Rilka glanced between them nervously. He's not wrong, he muttered. The pirates would have wiped everything. The counselor turned its gaze to the Vrathian. And you, Rilka of House Thren, you aided him? Rilka's scales rippled in embarrassment. I may have overloaded half the lab. The crystalline being's tone softened, barely. You both risked much. Yet without your actions, hundreds would have perished. Liam smiled faintly. So, detention or medal? A ripple of confused translation noises passed through the council. Then, astonishingly, one of the counselors laughed, a deep, resonant sound like thunder in a canyon. You are peculiar human, it said. Your kind terrifies our analysts. They say your species learned to dominate a death world not by strength, but by creativity, stubbornness, and how did your file put it? Making bad ideas work anyway. Sounds about right, Liam said. The crystalline counselor leaned forward, its light refracting brighter. Then perhaps it is time we learn from you, before the next pirates do. In the weeks that followed, the Academy changed its curriculum. Human Survival Tactics 101 became a new elective, co-taught by Professor Orion, with heavy supervision from the council, of course. The first lesson's title: Improvisation Under Pressure, Why Panic is Just Brain Fuel. Liam hated the paperwork but loved the experiments. Rilka became his unofficial assistant, partly because he was fascinated, and partly because no one else dared stand near a human wielding tools. Okay, Liam said one afternoon in the training yard, setting down a crate of raw materials. We're building a shelter using only what we have right here. Rilka tilted his head. These are scrap parts. Exactly. Liam grinned. Scrap's just potential with bad PR. He began stacking alloy plates, using adhesive foam to seal them. Within minutes, he'd cobbled together a shockingly sturdy structure. Rilka stared. You built a stable dome out of garbage. Yup, Liam said. Now imagine what we can do with intentional garbage. When Rilka hesitated to step inside, Liam tossed him a wrench. You're on door duty. Welcome to Team Improvised Claws. The Vrathian laughed, a rare, rasping sound. Team what? Improvised Claws, Liam repeated. Because, we build what we're missing. Rilka looked down at his own hands, sleek, scaled, natural weapons honed by evolution, and then at Liam's scarred, tool-stained ones. His expression softened. Maybe the galaxy didn't need another predator, he said quietly. Maybe it needed a builder who thinks like one. Liam tossed him a high five. See? You're getting it. The slap of human skin against Vrathian scales echoed across the yard. Months later, when the Galactic Council officially lifted the restricted contact clause on human students, the Academy celebrated with a small ceremony. Professor Orion floated beside them, voice calm but warm. Liam Carter, they said, you have demonstrated that survival is not merely adaptation, it is imagination. You've shown us that fear can create courage, that fragility can hide power, and that peace sometimes begins with someone foolish enough to run toward danger instead of away. Liam flushed, scratching the back of his neck. Thanks. But I didn't do it alone. He looked at Rilka. The Vrathian grinned, extending a clawed hand. You still owe me a new lab wing. Liam clasped it without hesitation. You still owe me breakfast for a week. Orion pulsed a gentle blue. I suspect the galaxy will owe you both more than that. That night, after the ceremony, the two sat on the observation deck, staring at the stars. The Academy's repaired shield shimmered faintly above them like a second sky. Hey Rilka, Liam said after a while. Remember when you asked how humans survive without claws? Rilka smiled. How could I forget? It nearly got you expelled. Liam held up his hand, flexing his fingers in the starlight. The answer's easy now. We don't need claws because we made something better. Rilka tilted his head. And what's that? Each other. The alien blinked. You mean teamwork? Yeah, Liam said, smiling faintly. We build, we fight, we screw up, but we do it together. That's our survival trick. Doesn't matter if it's on Earth, Mars, or the far side of the galaxy. We keep finding ways to help someone else make it too. Rilka looked out at the endless stars, quiet for a long time. You're a strange species, Liam Carter. Yup, Liam said. But admit it, we make things interesting. The alien laughed softly, his scales glinting silver in the dim light. That, my friend, is the most terrifying truth of all. Far below them, the planet turned, peaceful for now, safe for now. But somewhere out there, another world was hearing rumors about humans, about the species that built its own claws and smiled while doing it. And in every telling, the moral stayed the same. It isn't the fangs or the armor that make humans dangerous. It's the spark that refuses to die.